Welcome to the first video from this new series. It will show you the very first steps of how you can get our software and take your first dive into the Ventuz designer. Head over to ventuz.com, click on Download, wait for the download to finish, open the .exe, and follow the installation wizard. When that's done, hit Finish, and the Ventuz launcher will start. As you can see, we now need to get a license, which we will do quickly. The best starting point is our free community license. It includes everything you need. So click on this button here and insert your email address. Then hit Next. You will have to solve a CAPTCHA and receive a code afterwards. Check your email for the verification code. Copy it over and click Next. Now wait for it to finish. Great, so let's start learning. Head over to the Ventuz sample projects and download the basic tutorial. This will be your starting point into the designer, our software, to create scenes. After that's done, click the designer button to open the project. The designer then will ask you which scene you want to open. Take the basic 01 we prepared for you by double-clicking it. Let's talk about the user interface. I will explain all these different windows as we go. First of all these windows are customizable. You can resize them by simply dragging them around on the edges, or pull out the whole window by dragging on the title bar and put them wherever you want. On the top right here, we also have these pre-made workspaces which you can use. For now, we will stick to the logic one. The window on the left side here is our layer editor. You can think about it like in Photoshop, where you can stack layers on top of each other and they can interact with each other by blending and such. Right beside this, we have the hierarchy editor, which is where we can place nodes that will affect all the visuals in your renderer window, which is down here. Currently, we have a skybox studio in here, which gives us this nice little background and lighting for the scene and the camera which we are looking through. On the right side is the content editor, which is mostly used for creating logics and bind nodes to each other. And on the right side of that, we have the properties editor, which allows us to change properties of a node that we selected. For example, here in the camera. If you ever wonder what a specific node does, just hover over it and hit F1. This will open up this menu where you can decide what you want to learn, either by an interactive example which opens up another scene inside this project, or by opening the user manual and learning all the technical details. Let's have a look into the interactive help scenes. In these, you can touch different things inside the renderer window to change specific properties, learning more about what these nodes do. Also, keep an eye out for these yellow post-its. These will explain things in more detail, helping you understand further what's going on. Okay, back to our scene. Let's get our first asset in here. We included one into this project. Just head over to File and say Open Containing Folder. This will open up your project structure, navigate to the Assets folder, and in there you have this watch file. Simply drag and drop it behind the Skybox Studio. This will import everything, and the watch will appear in the renderer window. Now we need to scale it up because it's a bit small. So let's grab this axis node here. This holds basic transformation data for everything that's behind it. We want to use the scaling factor all and just increase that by dragging the value or typing it in. What we can also do with the X and Y to position it in the center. Great. Now let's add a material and talk about the toolbox. First of all, if you hit spacebar, you get the quick access toolbar where you can basically go through the different topics here and search for them and get your nodes. Or you can head over to View and Toolbox, and this will open up this toolbox window for you where you have the same categories and where you could drag and drop in notes wherever you need them. Let's keep that to the side and then hit spacebar again. And what we will do is switch this to alphabetical mode, which changes it to a search bar. What we want to do now is here in the hierarchy editor, look for an axis called Ventuz. This is the one that's having the text as mesh behind it. We can double check that if we hit Ctrl B to block nodes, this will make the text disappear on the watch. So what we want to have is a material in between these nodes like all the others. To do so, open up the toolbar again with spacebar and type in material, then simply drag and drop it here in between the mesh and the axis. Now let's change the lighting model. By default, this is on base color, but we want to work in a physical base rendering environment. So just click on this and change it to PBR, then click on the white circle beside it and change the color to a orange. Now that we've done that, we will get some interactivity in here, and for this I'm about to show you something that we call the repository. The repository is basically a folder where you can store pre-made Ventuz nodes and reuse them wherever you want inside your project. To open it, go under View, Repository Project and Tutorial. This will open the repository window, and in here, you will find this pre-built slider element. With this, we can interact with the watch by dragging on a small slider. So how do we do that? First of all, we need to get it in the hierarchy editor. Drag it beneath the skybox, and navigate to it by scrolling down. Now select it. This will also make it appear in the content editor on the right. Let's have a look into the properties. On the bottom half here, you can see the value 360. This is the current value the slider on the bottom of the renderer gives us. When we now drag on the orange box, you can see how the value changes. If you don't see this, make sure you have inputs and outputs enabled to see them both at once. Otherwise, you will either see one and not the other. We can now use this output value to control the rotation of our watch by using the Y rotation value and binding it to the slider node output. But we lost our slider in the content editor. In order to do so, we should first make it easier for us to navigate inside the hierarchy editor. Right-click on the scene node at the top. That will collapse everything down behind it. And then, with Shift and left mouse button, we can bring the slider node back over to the content editor to bind it to the axis. Bindings in Ventuz are always input to output. Remember, top sides are input values, bottom side are the output values. And this is the input we want to feed data in. Input to output means I need to drag this value onto this node, so drag it out by the label. As soon as you go over the other node, you will see it appears green, so it's finding a value that it can use. Just drop it on there. Great. Now these are bound. And if we now touch the slider, you can see we are rotating our watch around. The last thing we are going to add is a damper node. This node will dampen the movement of the rotation, which will make it feel smoother. Open the Fast toolbox by hitting spacebar and type in damper. Then we can simply drag and drop it onto the existing binding. If we now use the slider, you will notice a smoother rotation. Inside the properties of the damper, you can adjust this duration value to make it slower or faster again. This is the end of this video. In the next videos, we will animate more parts of the watch to make it completely functional, like animating the arms and other movable parts. Make sure to follow along this series to get a good start into the complete Ventuz world.